Bonjour, bonjour tout le monde. Comment ça va? Welcome back to French Action. And if you are new to this channel, you are actually watching French Action. French Action is a channel for anyone who is interested in learning French from scratch or who is interested in improving their French, and also those who are preparing for exams. So if you are obviously studying or working, wanted to do something with French, this is the right place to be. Okay? And if you are interested in French Action, I would ask you to subscribe to the channel so that you can have access to everything which I have put on the channel. And we're talking about over 100 videos. So if you're not too sure how to use them, then the only thing you have to do is just drop me a line at frenchaction1@gmail.com and I will explain to you how to use those videos. Okay, so I'm back with another live, and today it's going to be different from the live we had last time. I remind you that last time we had a live with the director of the Alliance Française de la Jamaïque, Larry Lamartinière, and this was a very interesting live about all the classes that you could have online with the Alliance Française. But today we're going to talk about careers in French. And when I say in French, it could be, even if you're doing Spanish, it would work because, it applies to modern languages, as what would say foreign languages. And I'll take this opportunity to advertise for two videos which are on YouTube by Greener Side Language Academy. And he prepared two videos on 5 careers in foreign languages, and then more 5 videos, 5 careers in foreign languages. So the point I'm making really is that even though, because my channel is focused on French, I'm going to talk about French, but if you are doing Spanish or any other language, you are welcome to stay with us because this applies to you as well. So today we are going to have 3 guests. I'm not going to say much about the guests because, it's the suspense is always very, very nice, isn't it? But the first person is called Angela de Freitas, already from the thumbnail. Then we are going to have Jezeel Martin, and we will finish with Kate Davies. 3 guests from Jamaica who have done a lot with their French. So why not start and see who they are, and so that you can see what you can actually do with your French. So now we're going to ask Angela to come. Angela, are you there?
Bonjour Mélène. Bonjour à tous.
Bonjour, Angela. So, Angela, I invited you because you have done a lot with your French, and also you are working now with Choices Caribbean. But what I would like to know is for you to tell us about your love affair with French.
Well, it's been a long love affair, I tell you. I mean, I must say that as a small child, I knew absolutely nothing about French. It's when I started at secondary level school and French was part of the curriculum from in the first form. I just immediately fell in love with the language. I really don't know why. I can't tell you why. But apart from falling in love with it, I think I had a flair for the language and I just took to it. And from there, from the age of 11, I have never left French out of my life. I have worked in a French environment. I have taught French. I have been to French speaking countries and just generally maintain that interest in the language and the culture. So apart from the work which I now do, which is helping other people to determine what should be their career path. I think I can tell you a little bit about French as well and the possibilities of working in French or with the French language, and also languages generally. Mhm.
Okay. Angela, there's a few papers. We can see everything which is written on it. Can you just remove them
Oh,
a
so
bit further
sorry.
down, please? Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's much better. We
Okay,
can
now
see
you
you
see
better.
me.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry about that.
yes, it's all
Hmm.
right. It's all right.
Okay.
So, so your very first profession was what?
Well, actually, my very first profession was journalism. I
Oh,
actually went
okay.
to school, I grew up and went to school in England. And there were two things that I always knew I wanted to do. I wanted to do something with French, and I wanted to be a journalist. And I think I've been very fortunate in life. Not everybody has the kind of working life that I have had, because I think that I've done the things that I really wanted to do. I think that at some point in my life, when I was less than 10, I said, like most young girls, that I wanted to be a nurse. But quite frankly, I know that wasn't the thing for me. I know that now. But I think I wanted to teach, and I taught French. I wanted to do something with the French language, and I did.
So,
And I
excuse
also
me.
wanted
So,
to do
from
journalism.
journalism, you
Mhm.
moved to teaching?
Yes, my first career was
Okay.
in journalism. And in fact, I felt disappointed because I know that if I had stayed in England, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity. So there was a disappointment there. But I was fortunate in that just at the point when I should be starting work, my family moved back to Jamaica. And of course, there were openings and opportunities for me there. So I worked in journalism for about 8 years fully. And then I studied French simultaneously. And when I had completely finished studying French, when I say completely, I mean by then I would have had a first degree from the University of the West Indies.
Mhm.
I taught French. I taught French in a secondary school here in Jamaica. I can name the school. It was Ardennes High School. And it was an
Hey,
absolutely,
for those
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
then.
It was an absolutely
Okay.
brilliant experience with Peach Dundas as the head of department. And then an opportunity came up to work in the Canadian High Commission, and they specifically wanted somebody with background or knowledge of the French language. So I was fortunate and I got that job. I don't know if I was fortunate or if I was qualified, prepared, and had the right skills and qualifications, because really that's what it's about. And that's what my work now helps people to understand. Get as many skills, qualifications as
As you
you
can.
can, because you don't know when that opportunity will come up for the person with just your skills. So don't be happy with just an academic qualification. Get as many skills, and whatever else you can, which makes you different to anyone else or adds to your qualifications. And that's what happened to me. They really wanted a public affairs officer. So my background with information and journalism, and then
Mhm.
added to that the French language, that's what really made
That
me
was
the ideal
ideal,
person for
wasn't
the
it?
job. Exactly.
Mhm.
There may have been someone else who had French but not journalism. There may have been someone else with journalism but not French. So, once again, get as many skills as you can, because when you can mix those skills together, then you become different to the applicant beside you. So, that's a definite message I want to leave with persons today. And of course, a language is a very specific skill, it's a very specific area of study. So if you have the opportunity, grab it for any language that you can do that's being offered. And also, if you have that flair for languages, take it as far as you can, because you just don't know when that opportunity will open up for you alone.
Hmm.
So I mean, after working in journalism, then teaching, then in information public affairs using French. I, after a while, decided to start my own business to help young people, and not just young people, but anyone actually, to determine what should be their career path. And I mean, one of the things that we recommend is that you do a psychometric test. And in fact, with something like a language, if you're going to take your language to another level, please make sure that you are doing the right thing. It's always good to have a foundation of a knowledge of a language. But if you're really going to try to take it to that other level where maybe you do university courses, do a degree, do more than that, try to ensure that it's really the right thing for you, because you might end up struggling, because it is a very specific skill, a very specific talent that some people have, and those who are not quite as versed would find themselves struggling. They'll still get through, but it will take that much longer. But I do recommend that if you can do a language, do it. Very important.
Hmm. Okay. And of course, as you know, I promote languages in general and French, of course. So I would say exactly the same thing. Try to have something else, something that most people may not have, because it gives you this extra edge.
That's right.
So,
Um, there are many opportunities also today, which, I mean, what I generally find with people and young people is that when we're in school, and I say when we are in school, we have certain ideas about certain careers, and they're usually the ones which are presented to us and which people around us are doing. But when you think about it, the world is so open these days that there's nothing that you can't chart a course towards doing if you want to. And especially now that so much education is online, it's
mm,
so it's so readily available that you can do practically anything you want to do. And additionally, as education opens up, opportunities for work opens up. And what I'm going to say is that, for example, any career that you want to do in English also exists in French or in a foreign language. So if you have that language, whatever it is, today we're speaking about French, but it could be another one, you can try do that career in that language in a different part of the world. Do you understand? You don't
mm,
have to think about staying in the corner where you are, because if you can speak another language, it means you can try to live in another part of the world. And I mean, remember, um, it's online work is something which is opening up to a great degree. And I can also give you my example, which to me is a great funny one. I used to work for a Japanese company, and of course, I know no Japanese. So they valued my English. And in the same way, you could work for a French company because they value your English, but they may want you to have even a smattering of French. Now, I knew no Japanese, but they wanted English speaking people to monitor programs on their television station, write them a report, send them that report. And I managed to earn off that job for several years, in addition to what else I
you
was
are
doing.
doing
That's right.
interesting.
And yes, the funny part is that I got paid in Amazon gift certificates, which was absolutely no problem, but it's just the way of the world right now. So, I mean, get that language and look for those opportunities that are not right in front of you in your little 10 square meters. Look for things which are opening for people globally. They are there. I can tell you, I have done it. And it's very exciting to live and work, live in one place and work in another, and be able to mix and match culture with people, because you do get to know people online. You may never meet them in life, but they become friends, they become associates, and it's very exciting. So, I mean, I go back to French. I mean, we've usually thought that if you study a language, you would either be teaching, you would be going
Mm.
into the maybe foreign affairs, diplomatic service, or you might be going into tourism, or some people may think they want to go into the airline industry, depending on the level that you're at, maybe as a air hostess or flight attendant, something like that. All of those areas would value your language, whatever it is. But the world has changed drastically, and the openings are there in many, many, many different areas. And also, not just looking at a career, for example, but if you look at organizations like the UN, the United Nations, there are many agencies which would value you more because of your language. There are many possibilities in the European Union. When you think about how many countries there are in the world where French is spoken, and I would think that that's almost 100, am I right? French
Quite a
is, um,
quite a few.
that's more than quite a few. I would say maybe 80 odd, which is close enough to 100 countries in the world where French is the mother tongue. And with the amount of people in the world who speak the French language, I think that the opportunities to work in the language will always be there.
Mhm.
I mean, if you consider logistics, the way the world now is becoming such a small place, I mean, I do quite a few things in life.
The global
And I
village,
should,
as they call it.
yes, and I should also tell you that I'm also an eBay seller. I sell on eBay. So
Okay.
I kind of understand global logistics, because I mean, I have had to send things off to all different parts of the world. Sometimes you don't even know where this place is. And so your geography really becomes sharpened as well. But sometimes you have to communicate a little bit in another language. And I mean, there are ways that you can translate on eBay. They offer you that option of, translating someone's message for you into
Free of
English.
charge?
Yes, yes, yes. Because once
Okay.
somebody communicates with you in another language, they'll say to you, "Would you like to see the translation?" And even up to yesterday, someone communicated with me from Mexico. So the question was there, um, "Do you want to see the translation?" And of course, the answer was yes, because I couldn't understand any of it. But there you go. I mean, even on a company like eBay, I don't think it's eBay that offers that translation service, but they connect with
Mm.
a company which offers it. So you see, there are so many options from right where you are. And I also I subscribe to Indeed, which is a global job search uh, opportunity. And once you tell them what you're looking for, they'll always present to you almost on a daily basis the things that suit you. So, I mean, if you know that you want to do something in French, like if you want to uh, edit books, but you prefer to do it in French because your French is that good, you can just sign up with Indeed or another global job search engine, and they will present you the work opportunities, and you can pick, choose, and refuse. Yes, you're going to have to apply. Yes, you're going to have to go through the interview process. But I'm just trying to show you that the world is not as small as it used to be. And you don't just have to think about the careers and jobs that you see locally
Yeah.
in your corner of the world. You can think about anything that exists, and the possibility is that if you prepare yourself properly and if you get the necessary skills, then that job can be for you.
Hmm. Very interesting. I understand that you have a magazine, or
Yes, that's
yes.
part
Can
of
you?
how. Yes.
Okay. How do you have the magazine to show
Yes,
us, please?
actually, our company is called Choices.
Choices.
Choices Career and Education Advice, but we style ourselves Choices Caribbean because of the work that we do throughout the Caribbean. And one of our flagship publications is called Choices, and there are
Okay.
several issues of Choices, but I chose this one because, as you can see from the theme of it, it's called Your CXEs, and it
Yes.
helps you to match CXCs and that CSEC and CAPE subjects to careers, and also matches careers with subjects. So, for example, if you're studying geography, it shows you, first of all, what geography is about, a little description of the subject, and then it gives you careers which you can do if you have studied geography, and vice versa. It shows you careers and what subjects you need for those careers. Now, I said geography, but I could have easily said French or another language
Yeah.
because modern languages is listed in here as it is in CXE, um, modern languages. Then it shows you careers which you can get out of modern languages. And then, of course, if, for example, you look up interpreter in the the log that's there, if you look up interpreter, for example, it would take you back to modern languages. So that's what this particular one does. I mean, there are several different issues of Choices Career and Education magazine, but this one in particular is excellent for students and anyone who probably has subjects and is not working with those subjects, but would like to know how those subjects can help in their future career. Now, another of our, I would say, another, I don't know if you can have two flagship publications, but the Career Key. I spoke before about doing a psychometric test, which
Yeah.
is a measure to determine, this one determines your personality type and what would be good careers for you. It's based on a globally recognized theory. And in fact, we're the only company in Jamaica and the Caribbean which is allowed to produce the Career Key either in paper and pencil or as an online test, because it's also available online. And once again, it's going to help you to know whether languages
It's
would
for you.
come into the picture for
Yes.
you. Um, it's not as straightforward as it sounds. It sounds very simplistic, but the test is based on a theory by a professor, created by a professor at a university in the US. He has unfortunately passed on. His name was Dr. John Holland, and it's called the Holland theory. And it's a theory that's subscribed to, taught, and learned by many students across the world. And the Career Key is based on that theory. It's a theory which defines 6 personality types and then matches those personality types with work environments, and then leads you to careers which are suited to you once you know what your personality type is. Now, the theory is by Dr. John Holland, But the career key was created by Dr. Lawrence Jones, another professor who used the theory to develop this psychometric test in a very straightforward and simple way that people can understand what it is they're doing and why it works. And students use it. We use it with students who are in secondary school from maybe ninth grade, which is third form, and up, but sometimes even younger, because there are some schools where students in eighth grade or second form start choosing the subjects that they're going to study to CSEC level. So it's important, and especially if you're going to put a language in the mix, because most schools offer students a language when they enter secondary school.
Mm.
And in the Caribbean, for us, it's usually French or Spanish. Then, as you've gone through a couple of years with that language, some schools allow you to continue it to CSEC, and or you can pick up another language, the one that you weren't doing. So at that point, it becomes more important to know whether you really have the aptitude to do more than you're doing already, or if it's just something which you've laid a good foundation for, but should not necessarily go further with. So at that point, when you do a test like the career key, it helps you to kind of narrow yourself down and narrow down your personality for you so that you have an idea. Now, we don't recommend that you put yourself in a box and don't try to break out of that box ever. But the reason it's good to do it at a young age is because our schools want you to select subjects at a certain point. But if you can still keep a broad foundation on which to build, we think that that's very suitable. So if you can keep that language with you and you're doing okay in that language, and you know you have a good chance of passing an exam in that language, then we would say that's the thing to do. And especially if the career key is showing you the kinds of careers in which a language would be good. But we always say it's never too late for education. And if, for example, you haven't been able to do something at school, you can do it outside of school, after school, or while you're at a tertiary institution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never too late for that language. And that's why places like the Alliance Française exist. And in fact, they helped me along the way because I hadn't mentioned them yet, but even after I stopped formal study of French, like in a tertiary institution, I then afterwards, a bit later in life, joined the Alliance Française and went back into studying French and also into what you call those classes where you just speak.
Conversation classes?
Conversation classes, yeah. And that's when you really know if you love something. Because even when I didn't have to do it, I still went back to it. And I actually did some more French exams. These exams now set by the French government.
You're talking about the DELF?
DELF and DALF, that's
DALF.
right.
Okay.
So it wasn't a requirement. I didn't have to do it. It wasn't for any reason, but I wanted to do it just for myself. I was going to the Alliance. I was in conversation classes. I was back in my French, and I said, okay, let me do the exam, and I did. Unfortunately for me, I don't have to say I failed. I passed. And I feel very good about that. But I think that people who, take up a language know definitely whether it's for them or not. And as I say again, the careers that can open up to you because of that language are, many and varied. And I'm sure your two other guests, not to give anything away, are going to give their sides of the story. But for example, when I worked in the Canadian High Commission, it's a department, the public affairs department deals with information out of Canada. And if any language, there's that opportunity as well of working in a foreign mission in the country that you're in, because they engage what they call local staff, locally engaged staff. So once you have a certain level or a certain aptitude in that language, whatever it is, then that's another opportunity that you can look at, working in a foreign mission here in Jamaica. And that means that you're speaking in English, but you're also understanding in that other language, because you may get information out of the country in that language. We know that Canada, their first language is English, but there are sections of Canada where French is considered the first language as well. It just opens up a lot of opportunities and possibilities for you. And I didn't even mention tourism. And tourism has a very broad scope. And if you even just want to narrow it down and say, I want to work in a hotel, a language is going to help you. But if you think about, tourism in a broader sense, all of the opportunities that could be there for you at a variety of different levels and in a variety of different careers. If you think about cruise ships that come from a variety of different places and are owned by different nations and registered all over the globe in different countries, you with a language are going to be of great value in that industry. And when you think about it, French is they say French is the language of diplomacy. First of all, they say French is the language of love. Is it true? Okay. But French is, I think, also known as a language of diplomacy, and it is probably one of the top 2 or 3 languages spoken in the world. And it's the language of cooking, cuisine. If you have that understanding of French, you're going to see a lot of things in that area of learning about food, being a chef, pastry making, all of those. A lot of that, remember, is based on French and things coming out of the French language. I have a Larousse gastronomique, and sometimes it's fun just to, look at it. I'm not cooking the things, but it's just interesting to look at the names that we know and that are just part of the English language because of French cuisine. Cuisine is a French word, but everybody understands that word in English and everyone knows what it means. So that knowledge of French really gives you an opening into a myriad of things, many different things. And I am happy to have had the opportunity, the way I did, to study the language, to appreciate the language, and also to know the French culture, because that was all part of it. When I started learning French at secondary school in England, it wasn't just about je m'appelle, comment vous appelez-vous. It was also about the French culture we learned to make quiche la reine. That was one of the first things we did. I'm not sure why, but to this day, I remember those things. And I think that everybody at that point had to do French because it was the subject for first form. And then you would have been able to select a second language after that. And I think in Jamaica and the Caribbean, it's somewhat similar to that. You should know, Milan, because you have.
Well, what I would say is that in Jamaica, I wouldn't say in the Caribbean, but for Jamaica, uh, it's mainly one language. Some schools do two, but it's very, very few schools.
Oh,
Yes, it's not really like, for example, in France. I mean, I grew up in France and I had to do two languages. Here, you don't have to do two languages. And in fact, you you could start in grade 7, you do French or Spanish, and then you decide to, oh, I'm not too interested. I don't want to continue it. And you don't even go as far as CSEC.
I see.
So you
Well,
would have done just 3 years, and 3 years is not really enough to
it's yes, it's a
be
light foundation, but
exactly.
I
So
think yes, I think there are some schools when you even reach in higher grades, they might give you a kind of a course in the other language. I've known of that. I'm not sure if it's a general thing. If you're doing well in the first language that you're doing, they'll offer you a kind of fast course to get you up to speed in another one. But I think I was fortunate because I started with French from first form, and
that was in England, though.
that was in England,
Mhm.
yes.
I
At
don't
third
think we have
form,
that here.
well, at third form,
I'm not aware unless somebody can tell me in the chat if they know about that in Jamaica,
yeah,
but I'm not aware of that.
okay, that students would pick up a second language. Well, my second language was Russian, but I decided not to go to exam level with Russian, although I still remember a little of it. But when I was in a higher grade, they offered me Italian, and I did Italian, and I took Italian to exam. So
Mm.
anyway, it's a different system, but and I think
Yes.
that our schools in the Caribbean definitely understand the value of a language, and that's why they do offer the French and the Spanish in the main part,
Mhm.
and for students who are able to take it to exam level, they do encourage it, and it's most important, and not just because there are French or Spanish speaking islands around us, or parts of CARICOM, or part of our nearby communities, but because more than ever now, as I keep saying, the world is just one small place. And the more you can communicate and connect with the rest of the world, the more opportunities you will always have.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have a little questions. How do we get hold of your magazine? You haven't told
Okay.
us.
Well, there are some bookstores at which you can get the career key. And let me explain to you. There are times when we publish choices, for example, and it will appear as an insert in the Gleaner newspaper. And at that point, people are able to get it and it's free. And we're happy to do that. There are other times when it's more or less only available direct from us and also for students in schools, because what we do is offer career workshops for students anywhere in the secondary level, and the materials that are used in the workshop are the Choices magazines, and definitely and specifically the career key. But we do, of course, have everything that we do online. I don't know if you can see behind me. And our
I see
website is,
online. I see a
yes,
couple and online. Yes.
that's right. At the top, it says the path to your career is now online, something like that. Um, so you only have to go online and you'll find us. We are choicescaribbean.com. And then if you put slash store, STORE, you'll be able to buy anything you want. And if you don't find it at the store, it's shop, SHOP.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything we do is online at choicescaribbean.com. And all of the publications and packages. And the packages are not just for students, because we have packages for parents as well who are helping their children, and also packages for guidance counselors and teachers in schools to help students in the educational system, and also for adults, because the Career Key and Choices Magazine, they're not just for children, they're also for adults, because we know that there are many adults who definitely know that they're not in the right career and never had the opportunity of determining what they should really be doing in life. They've either just wandered into something and they're still in that something, or they were pushed into it, or it was suggested to them, or they knew somebody who was in it, or they knew somebody in a managerial position who suggested that they apply for a job. And I mean, there are people in careers for many different
Many
reasons.
different reasons.
And
Yes.
I mean, they've often said to us, I know I'm in the wrong career, but what can I do? But they can do something. It's never too late. It's never too late. And even if it's to take up a language because you think you should have continued your language, I mean, the alliance is there. There are always opportunities, and it's never too late for education. Never too late. And I know people who have, changed their career path late in life and, has still had successful careers. And we're not in the age anymore where you stay in one career for 30, 40 years. People are changing careers 3, 4, 5 times in one lifetime. Young people these days are not looking for that gold watch after 50 years of service. They just want as many experiences and as much fun and as much excitement as possible. So they are moving around, they're using all of their skills, all of their talents, and picking up new ones along the way, and learning online and doing as many things as they can. And when you talk to them about their life, then a lot of them are digital nomads. They can live and work anywhere in the world. They just pick up, have one bag over their shoulder or on their back, and they can go to
Off they go.
anywhere. Yeah, they can move and work from anywhere. And I mean, as I said to you, I was working for a Japanese company, Jib TV, and from right here in Jamaica. So you can be anywhere. I mean, modern technology and internet services are all you need, and the right skills and qualifications, and the mindset.
Merci beaucoup, Angela. I'm just
Merci.
looking at the messages we received. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. And we have some messages which I'm going to read. Okay, I'm going to put it on the screen as well. Coming from Shelley Wong. Bonjour, Shelley. A few schools will give you a second foreign language if you're doing well in the first. For example, Immaculate Conception High. Okay, that is true, yes. And she continues by saying Campion College allows you to do 2 foreign languages as well. I think it's the same for Ardennes, the school where you went to. I think they can do 2 as well.
Where I used to teach. Yes.
And bonjour, Samantha. Samantha is saying, when I was at Ulmos Girls, there was a fast track program offered in grade 10 for second language. Furthermore, I started French, functional French at Cape. Interesting. And they're in grade 12.
So all
So
things are
there's
possible.
possibilities, but as I was saying, it's not widely available. It's just a few schools in Jamaica doing it.
Yes. But
And in particular, Kingston, I think, because Immaculate, Campion, Arden are in Kingston.
yes, but they're probably more because I think that there is the possibility, and that fast track is what I was trying to refer to, where they offer you the language and you can do it in 2 years. And it does become important because if you are going to continue with languages after secondary, it's good if you had more than one language or the background in more than one.
Yes. Okay, so Angela, merci beaucoup. That was very, very interesting. If anybody has questions for Angela, please put them in the chat. Even though we are going to ask Jezeel to come in a minute, you can still ask questions and Angela will respond to them, because the four of us will be back together at the end. So there is not a problem if the questions comes just afterwards. It's not a problem. You can still write it in the chat. Okay, and I will monitor the chat, so you don't have to
Merci
worry.
Mylène, merci à tous.
Okay, so Jezeel, I'm going to ask Jezeel to come. Jezeel, ça va? Okay, so Angela, I'm going to remove you for the time being, but then you will be back with us. Okay, all right, so Jezeel, comment ça va? Pleased to see you.
Vous allez bien?
Très bien, merci. Okay, so I invited you because you were a student of French, a very good one, who did a lot of stuff, and now you have a profession. And I'm not going to say more about it because you're there. So you're going to explain, first of all, what was your love affair? How was it? How was your love affair with French?
Love affair was, romantic. It was absolutely amazing. And the relationship is still going strong, but I will definitely let you know how it started. I remember my sister Avril coming home one day. She was a student at Immaculate Conception High, and she was speaking French. So she was studying in preparation for her exam that was coming up. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so nice. What language is that? And she told me it was French. And so since then, I've always wanted to learn French, and she would teach me a few words. And so fast track now to high school. When I started at St. George's College, I was so based on a discussion that you had with Angela, it's a common understanding that high schools in Jamaica only or generally permit students to do one subject, one foreign language subject. And so Spanish was offered to me.
Okay, excuse me. Is it possible for you to do something with your mic? Because somebody is not hearing very well.
Can you hear
it's
me?
Not as. Can you speak again?
Are you hearing me better
now? For me, it's not better. I don't know. Somebody says it sounds muffled.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh, yes. Now, yes. Yes, we can now.
Okay, yes. Great. So I was saying that, I was introduced to Spanish in first form at St. George's College. And because of the introduction with French, I asked to be switched to French. And my sister made the case, and they switched me to French, which I was very much grateful for. And then when I started, I remember Mrs. Sankey at St. George's College was my first French teacher. and I started to excel, and I would get 100% on all my French exams.
Wow.
And then when we would do orals, she would say, "Oh my gosh, I love your French accent." And and I spent a lot of time practicing, and I think Mrs. Sankey realized that I had a knack for French. And I believe she spoke with Mrs. Wong, Shelley Wong, who was the head of the modern language department at the time, um, and
She
senior
still
French
is.
teacher.
She still is.
Right, she still is.
She still is.
And 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 they decided that another colleague, another student, and I were supposed to start preparing for the DELF exams at the second form level. So we were preparing for exams that seniors, 10th graders, fifth formers were preparing to do. And so they really challenged me to do and to improve my French in a very short space of time. And then by the time I left St. George, before I left St. George's College, I went to Université Laval at Quebec to do
Okay.
a French an intense French summer program, which was amazing. And I came back to Jamaica, and then I did my final DELF exam, which was the highest level. I think it was at B2 for DELF. And then I left for college, and during that college period,
Excuse me, your
I
teacher
then
is
started
saying he did DELF A1 at second form.
Hi, Mrs. Wang. I'm happy to hear you're on. So while I was studying law at the University of the West Indies, I got employed by the High Commission of Canada, and I worked in quite a few departments: the immigration department, the foreign trade department, and also the foreign politics and communications department. Unfortunately, French was an asset while I worked at the High Commission of Canada. I would, correspond with the French Canadians, right? So we call them the Quebecois, who were stationed at the mission for a defined period of time. And so I would also get certain assignments based on the fact that I was bilingual. And there was a joke at the High Commission, so they used to call me Mr. French, because my French accent wasn't necessarily Canadian, but more aligned with the
Yes.
motherland, France. So
Because that's what we teach.
after that,
That's what we teach.
right? Exactly.
Yes.
And so when we spoke French, my accent was very much distinct at the mission.
Can
And
imagine.
then, I went on, and I finally became an attorney after finishing my studies at the University of the West Indies and Norman Manley Law School. And I started with a law firm here in Kingston. And that as well has given me the opportunity to use my French, which, it's always a concern for a lot of us francophones, right, who take on a second language, because if we're not given the opportunity to practice and to keep using the language, there is the risk, no matter how good you are, no matter how fluent you might get, that you could possibly lose the language and start all over again. So
True.
so that was a real concern. And so when I started working at the law firm that I work with, and I'm a commercial attorney, and I started to be introduced to clients who were French, and also clients who were Canadian who spoke French. That was amazing. It's always, I can remember this one opportunity where we had a meeting with a client, and this client was looking around to shop for a law firm to represent the company in Jamaica. And I remember my boss saying in the conference room, to the client, oh, and we have Jezeel Martin, our newest associate, who speaks French. And everyone turned and they looked at me, and then we started having, a side chats and stuff, and that was amazing. See the deal. Nonetheless, we actually got the client. So that was an
Well done.
amazing
Well done.
experience, having just started out as an attorney, a young attorney. And then I realized that the more we started to onboard certain clients who spoke French, my ability to also correspond in their maternal language, it's such a great asset in terms of client management and care. To know though that yes, English is the main language that we will give you instruction as attorneys, but to also be able to correspond in a language that is familiar, that is home to the client, was a plus. And definitely added to my client management skills, so much to say that we still have those clients today, and we're acting as external counsel for their businesses. So my love affair has
That's
been
very
has
good.
been
That's
absolutely
very good.
incredible with the language. Yeah.
Well, your teacher is saying, I remember when you served as interpreter for athletes at Carifta as a high school student. You remember that?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yes,
Oh,
I
come
did serve
on. This the
as an
teacher who
interpreter.
remembers and you don't?
Yeah,
Merci,
but
Shelley.
I used to serve as the interpreter for the French teams from Guadeloupe and Martinique, and even La Guyane Française that used to come for the Carifta games. And
Okay.
also, I remember the opportunity, while I was in high school, to go and represent Jamaica in Guadeloupe, in a French singing competition, which was
Yes, I
amazing.
remember
And
that.
then
Yeah, yeah.
and then from that opportunity, I also, got the assignment to become the chaperone for the next Jamaican students who would go to Guadeloupe and compete. And then also going to different events as well in Guadeloupe, volunteerism events in Guadeloupe. So, my love affair has been very diverse. And to this very day, I still have friends who are in Paris and who are in Guadeloupe and Martinique and Quebec, who are close friends, and we speak ever so often, via WhatsApp, if we're texting in French, or we're doing a
In French.
bilingual text
Okay.
in English and
That's
French,
good.
or we're video calling and we're code switching between English and French through the entire conversation. So yeah, it's really
It's gone. Are you back? Can you hear us, Jezeel?
yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes,
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 can
I
you hear
can.
me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
Yeah, well, you have done quite a lot because you're not an old man, so you've done quite a lot, That's very, very encouraging as well. And I'm hoping that those who are watching you will be inspired by what you've been doing. And of course, having, oh gosh, he's gone again. He's gone again. I don't know if he's coming back. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
I
sorry
was just
about that.
saying that I just hope that everything you've said is going to inspire, young people, whether it's Jamaica or, anywhere in the world. We are on YouTube, so we are in the world. So I just hope that you're going to be a very good role model. And what I see from what you've just talked about is that many people like to become a lawyer, but you have something else. You are a lawyer, of course, but also you have your French, which has helped your company to get some customers. So that is something worth mentioning. You see, even though many of you are going into law, but having a language, it is an asset, as you said. So that's very, very important. I'm looking
Right.
at
And
some.
um I
So
it would be remiss
somebody
of
is
me,
saying,
Milen.
Yes, sorry.
I was gonna say that it would be remiss of me to actually come on your program and fail to mention that I'm actually the legal advisor to the French embassy here in Kingston. So
Okay.
so that was a huge accomplishment in
Oh
November of
yes, most
last year.
definitely. Most definitely.
And so it's just been amazing and a nice icing to the cake of how
Most definitely.
my love affair started with French. As a young poor little boy from a very dangerous community here in Kingston, Jamaica, to then go on and learn this beautiful language, a language of romance and a language of diplomacy, to be able to be employed in diplomacy and then also in advocacy, and use it. And then now I'm actually representing the mission of France here in Jamaica. So I'm very much privileged and I'm very much grateful to Shelley Wong and the other teachers at St. George's College who pushed me. Shelley Wong in
Mhm.
particular, who really, was that motivating factor. I remember when I had doubts about, passing the B2 exam in a very short space of time. She pushed me and told me that I could do it. And I believe I started studying within the same month of the exam, and then I ended up passing the exam. So, you know, I'm very much grateful, and it's amazing to see the world of opportunities that French has
Mhm.
opened for me and continues to open. And so I would encourage anyone who is interested in learning the language to definitely start. There is the Alliance Française de la Jamaïque here in Kingston,
Did you
which
take some classes there?
offers.
Did you take some classes there?
Unfo-
Or just
no,
the
I didn't.
exams?
I didn't take classes there. I only took the exams there.
Yeah, you
But
just
I
took
was
the
at
exams
all
there.
right. But I was at all times a member of the Alliance, and so I would also make use of the library. The Alliance of the French Alliance here in Kingston has an amazing repertoire of resources that you can use if you are a member. From beginner to intermediary to just trying to maintain your fluency, and that was also very beneficial to me. And so, if you want to start French, reach out to the Alliance Française, and inquire about the classes and start. And the amazing thing now is, I think all classes are online. So wherever you are in the world, you
Yes,
can start,
yes.
and there's no
Mhm.
excuse.
Yes. I would like to read something to you from Yojidre. Okay, I'm going to put it on the screen. This young man talking about you is such an inspiration. His future is bright by the grace of God. Isn't that lovely? That is
Thank
a
you
very
very
nice
much. Thank
comment.
you. Thank you. That
Thank
blesses my
you.
heart.
That's
Thank you
very,
so much. I appreciate that.
and I do agree with that. And that's why you are, that's why
Merci,
you are on
Mylène.
my live.
Et je vous apprécie beaucoup aussi.
Merci, merci. Merci, Jezeel. Is it Jezeel or Jezeel?
Jezeel.
Jezeel. Okay, Jezeel, Jezeel. Okay. And I see Karen Henry. Well done, St. George's graduate.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Uh, and Shelley saying proud teacher. Prof fier. Oh, okay, yes, in French. Okay, I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is. It's always good to see what our students become and what they do, what they achieve with their French, because very often we don't know. So when we see all this, is very, very good. So, have you got any questions for Jezeel? If you have any questions or any comments, please let me have them, and I'm going to read those comments. Otherwise, we will be Otherwise, we'll be looking at our last guest,
Yes.
Kate
And I'll be back
Davies,
at the end.
and you will be back. Everybody will be back. So if there's a question for you, it will be there. The chat is still there.
Okay.
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 So I'm just going to add Kate. Kate. Bonjour, Kate.
Bonjour et bonsoir. Il est 22 heures ici à Londres.
All right. Yes, there's something I didn't say is that Kate is in London. So she lives in Brussels, but she's now in London. So obviously, Kate, I have to say thank you very much for coming, especially so late, because it's still afternoon for us, you know. So it's very, very, you know, I'm very happy to have you.
It's
Okay.
my pleasure. No problem at all.
Yes. The reason why I invited you is because I understand now you have what, 5 professions, and French is always in the heart of them. So, Kate, I would like you to tell us about your love affair with French first.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Well, listen, French has been pivotal to all my careers throughout my life, practically, at least from the age of 18. So let me introduce myself a bit by saying I'm a conference interpreter, and that is what I have been for the greatest part of my adult life, as it were, a conference interpreter. And my languages are English, of course, as my native language, my mother
Mhm.
tongue, and I work into and out of Spanish, but I also have French and Portuguese. Now, why do
Portuguese.
yes, and Portuguese as well. Now, why do I say that French is pivotal? It's because it is thanks to the French language that I have been able to do almost everything I've done throughout my professional life. And let me explain. Well, I started off learning French. I went to Wolmer's and a very good school for modern languages. But in those days, they only allowed us to do one modern language. We could do Latin as well. Well, I wasn't that keen on the Latin. I
Yeah.
did a couple of terms, but but I chose Spanish at school. So I couldn't speak a word of French. Well, yes, I could say bonjour, je m'appelle Kate, because my parents had studied French at school and at university, but I hadn't. And it's an interesting story. When I finished my schooling at Wolmer's, I had an excellent Spanish teacher, and I was using my Spanish rather like Jezeel, volunteering to interpret for a circus that had pitched tent next door, or volunteering in the Pan American Paraplegic Games as a liaison officer, things like that. Um, but then when I finished school, the opportunity came up for me to apply to go on an exchange program, International Christian Youth Exchange. I applied, and in my application, I said that I wanted to go to a Spanish speaking country, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, because I'd studied Spanish.
Mhm.
And they sent me to France.
Wow.
Yes.
So how
Um,
did you feel when you were sent to France, because that's not what you wanted originally?
I know. Call it divine intervention, serendipity, whatever, call it whatever you wish. I was disappointed initially, and I was saying, why on earth have they decided to send me to France? But I think that somebody else knew what they were doing and realized that um, perhaps, maybe they thought that since I was good at my Spanish, it would be useful for me to add another language and broaden,
Mm.
my horizons. And so, but I'm a very adventurous type of person also. So even though I was a little disappointed at the beginning, I said, well, why not? Here I am. I'm going to go and spend a year in France. And that's precisely what I did. I could not speak any French. I landed
So they
and
sent you like this, knowing
yes,
that you, oh my God, that must have
yes,
been hard.
it was difficult at the beginning, but a challenge. But it was, as I say, I like challenges and I'm adventurous. And I think that it's all, you were mentioning mindset. And I think the other guests also were talking about attitude and mindset. And if you are open, I love travel. I knew I love traveling. I love meeting people. I love learning about new cultures. So it didn't phase me too much. When I got to France, it's very funny because the my French maman, the family I lived with, she couldn't speak English either. None of them. And so they had to get the children of the neighbors to come and help me out
Oh my God.
the first week. And then they also had a lady working with them who spoke Spanish. So she helped me out for the first couple of weeks. And then they sent me to, I'd finished my A levels in Jamaica, but they put me in a lycée in France, Terminal. I was in Pau in the south of France. Beautiful city, really beautiful. And they put me in Terminal, class Terminal, where I suddenly had to do
Wow.
8 hours of philosophy, 8 hours of French literature per week without knowing a word. Well, do you know? It's like baptism of fire, jumping in the deep end.
Yes,
I
most
had to
definitely.
learn. I had to learn. And after 2 or 3 months, I think it was 2 months actually of this school, um, I also had English classes, which was rather funny because I was the one native English speaker in the English classes, well, the teacher wasn't a native speaker. But after a while, I said, well, I would like to learn more French properly from the beginning, the grammar, the basics, because
Yeah.
here I was doing high level
We were
French without
picking up the
knowing it.
language.
Yes,
That's what we
picking
were
it up.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And
We're the
making
same.
mistakes and so on. So I managed to negotiate to leave the school and go to the university as it's in French, auditrice libre, somebody who sits in and, for free. I didn't have to pay. And I could sit in on lectures. And it so happened that in those days, the University of Berkeley, California, had an exchange program with the University of Poe. So I was allowed to sit in on those classes. But I was living in French as well, which really helped me to learn the language.
Yeah, of
I
course.
was I was at the conservatory studying flute in French. I joined two choirs. I was singing in French. It became
Wow.
total, total immersion. And that's one of the best ways to learn a language. Unfortunately, not everybody can have that opportunity, but the opportunities are there if you want to. But at the same time, um, I felt that I was very lucky, very blessed. And so when I finished my year in France, I headed back to Jamaica, realizing that, okay, I want to study modern languages, Spanish and French, language and literature at university, but I didn't have French A levels. So I
Uh,
decided to teach myself for the A levels.
so
I
A
had,
levels is what we call CAPE now,
yes, exactly. In those
just
days,
for
it
the
was.
audience.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I had the help of an excellent teacher, but just towards the end, I had a few classes with this lady, and I sat my French A levels, the exams, and I did brilliantly in the orals. I got an A, but um, the
Wow.
written the written was a little bit shakier, but I passed. So I had the qualifications now to go to do modern languages at the University of the West Indies. But while studying for my French A levels, I had to do something. And I was 18. I'd just come back from France, speaking French and still speaking Spanish quite fluently. And so I ended up as, if I'm not mistaken, Jamaica's first ever trilingual tour guide. So I had English,
Wow.
Spanish, and French. And I was recruited by Martin's Jamaica. I don't know if it still exists. I don't think so. I had a ball for a year. I was given all the groups who spoke, well, Spanish, of course, and French. But I was given all the other foreign groups as well, Italians, Japanese, Germans, everybody, because I spoke languages, as it was said.
Mm.
But it was fun. And so tourism, your guest was saying earlier, Angela de Freitas was saying, tourism is an area in which French can be very, very useful. Tour guides, hotels, etc. So I did that. And then I went to university, but I had no idea at all I mean, I knew I enjoyed interpreting and translating, but it was still a hobby for me I was doing it for fun. I didn't
Mm.
think at that stage that I was going to become a conference interpreter, not yet. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I was actually, I have to say that for most of my life, I have stumbled along merrily, just, you know, bouncing into situations which have turned out to be pretty positive. And I think it's a matter also, as I said, of opening up and letting the experiences come and grasping the opportunities as they
And
arrive.
not being too
No, not being too
narrow-minded.
afraid or
Yes,
narrow
yes,
minded.
yes,
Just,
yes.
if you love languages, you love traveling, you love meeting people, you love other cultures, learning about cultures, just open up and grasp the opportunities. So that's what I did. Um, Before going to university, in fact, I'd been offered a job on a cruise liner as well.
Really?
Yes, but
So what did
unfortunately,
you do on that cruise?
no. And what I was going to say, I was supposed to be one of the
Oh,
entertainment supervisors, and this cruise
okay.
liner was going to take me around the Caribbean and around the Mediterranean. But unfortunately, the director who pre-recruited me lost his job. So then,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So then I had a year waiting because I'd put off my studies at UWI. I had a year in which I continued to work on and off ad hoc in tourism. In broadcasting, I used to do programs, but not using French. I used my Spanish sometimes. Broadcasting, classical music, and various other things. Excuse me. From time to time, I'm going to have to take a sip because I have a
No
slight.
problem. No problem. Please do.
Thank you. And I used the French occasionally because I started translating a bit as well. Okay. But then I went to university and did, as I said, Spanish and French. And I'm so glad I did. I graduated. And in the first year after graduation, the university invited me to become a tutor for beginners French. So I did that for a year.
Okay.
I taught
Like
beginners
it's like
French,
teaching, really.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
at UWI,
Mm-hmm.
the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in parallel, I was still also interpreting and translating, as I said, not taking it very seriously still, except that when I graduated, yes, that was, I think, one of my most serious moments interpreting. But this wasn't with French. I'll just tell the anecdote anyway because it applies. I mean, what I'm saying applies to all languages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was asked to do a meeting. I won't mention the organization, but it was a high level organization, international
Okay.
organization. I
Okay.
was asked if I would, along with another graduate, um, do the meeting in consecutive mode. I had not a clue, no clue what
Wow.
consecutive interpreting
More.
was. We have, because I don't know if you know, in conference interpreting, professionally, officially, there are different modes. You have simultaneous interpreting when you sit in a booth and you listen and you speak basically simultaneously, listening, analyzing, speaking, and it's a loop, a continuous loop. But in consecutive interpreting, you have to listen to the speaker first, take notes. If they speak for anything more than a minute or two, you definitely want to take notes. And then you have to render the speech in the target language. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes depending on the circumstances, you can't interrupt the speaker. If it's a very high level meeting, you can't butt in and tell them, oh, I
Yes.
can only do half a sentence. No. And so, you have to go on sometimes for 5, 10, even 15 minutes or longer, taking notes of a speech and then rendering it back. Well, I had no idea. I know that I needed a notepad and a pen. I went to the meeting, and that was another baptism of fire.
So
Because,
no training, they just put you like that. Oh
well,
my God.
well, the thing is, in those days in Jamaica, we didn't have any formal training in interpretation or translation. Now we do. There is a Masters of Translation at the University of the West Indies, a
Yes,
very
yes.
good one
Mm.
indeed. And in past years, the Language Training Center, and I know that there are people on this program, Karen, I think I heard Karen Henry was here, people who used to be um, uh, who were in Jamaica in those days know that the Language Training Center became sort of like the hub or the leading organization for not just language learning and language teaching, and I worked there as well as a teacher,
Mhm.
but also from time to time for offering training. Short courses in
Mhm.
interpreting and translating. And then later on, there was also a course at the University of the West Indies for a little while, a short while, in interpreting. Um, I I myself did one of the certificate courses at the Language Training Center, but this was afterwards, after this experience that I'm talking about 4 years later, 4 years later, there was a course that I did for, and that was an introductory type of course to translation and interpreting. Around that time, too, I must tell you, that's when in Jamaica, those of us who were interpreting and translating locally without necessarily much formal training, although some people did have training, had gone abroad, gotten training, and come back, but there were a lot of us who had not been trained
Mhm.
properly yet. But uh, we all got together. There was a group of the ones who had were professionals, had trained and come back, got together with others locally to form the Translators and Interpreters Association of Jamaica, and I was one of the earliest members of TIA, as
Okay.
it's called. And I'm mentioning TIA because TIA is still going strong, and I'm still a member. I'm now a member of TIA again.
Can you explain to us what TIA is? I
But
don't
TIA,
think. Yes.
TIA, the Translation and Translators Interpreters Association of Jamaica. It's an association which brings together um, people who are professional interpreters and translators, as well as graduates from the university who would like to or who have started interpreting and translating, as well as students. We have student membership as well for those who are interested. And in the association, we do all sorts of things and activities related to interpreting and translating in Jamaica, information activities, training activities. We have workshops and seminars. We have competitions, a translation competition. There's one translation of a quotation competition that was just completed this past week. All sorts of interesting activities. So, and the organization, the association, is going strong and is growing. So it's
Well
very
done.
good. Yes,
Well
and
done.
so we are encouraging through the association, encouraging uh, all those interested in the interpreting and translating careers to focus, to get training, whether locally or wherever, and to in order to how should we say, enhance the profession as a
Mhm.
profession, because unfortunately in many countries around the world, and this is not just the Caribbean, for too long, people have thought that if you speak a language, you can interpret or translate.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that's
That's
how
what
it
people.
used to be. And it
Yes.
still is the
It
case in
still
many
is.
places.
Still
Yeah.
is, but it's not that easy.
It is not only not that easy. Interpreting and translation are careers which require um, solid training. I mean,
Mhm.
uh, internationally now, if you want to become an interpreter or a translator with a bona fide recognized organization or even on the private market, you now need to have a master's in conference interpreting or a master's in translating or a combined master's as offered by some universities. So it's very important. So this is part of the work that we're doing in TIA to encourage people to
That's good.
yeah, to continue learning. Now, I'm a solid believer in lifelong learning. And here I'd like to refer to something. I don't remember if it was Jezeel or Angela who said that, y- that you no longer need to have one career. Young people no longer just have one career and wait for the golden watch.
Angela said
It
that.
was Angela said, well,
Angela
I have
said.
to say to Angela, not just young people, there's some of us
Yes.
of the older generations who have never believed that you needed to have one career. So, to
Mm.
get back to my story, very quickly. So, I started, yes, I started interpreting and translating in Jamaica, learning on the job. As I said, I joined TIA in the early days, but I had a setback, but it wasn't entirely a setback. I always say that whenever you fail at something or something blocks your way, just
Something
look,
better comes up.
something better is going to come. Look for the other door, look for the other opening. And the sort of cliche saying, if life hands you lemons, make lemonade. So I've had a few of those moments in my life, professionally too. I was recruited for a conference. Again, I won't mention the organization, but locally in Jamaica. And unfortunately, I was recruited by the local person in charge, again, an international organization. And I was recruited, and then the another person in the hierarchy from abroad arrived in Jamaica and said, "But she is not trained. She's not a member of AIC, the International Conference Interpreters
Talking about
Association."
you. Talking
Yes,
about you.
talking
Okay.
about me, saying, "No,
Hmm.
no, no, she can't be on the team because she does not have the qualifications. She does not have the International Conference Interpreters Association membership, and that, we can't
Okay.
have her
Okay.
on the team because the other interpreters arriving from abroad will refuse to work with her." And so
Mm.
they took me off the team. And I said to the person, who was very nice, though it wasn't his fault, I said, "Oh, okay. So if that's what you want, that's what you'll get." And so I said, "Just give me a couple of years. I'll be back. I'll be back with the qualifications, and I'll be a member of IEC."
Oh,
At
wow.
Yeah, at that time, I had those goals. I set those goals. I wanted to join IEC, the International Conference Interpreters Association, which is um, the standard setting association for our profession worldwide.
Hmm. Hmm.
I won't go into all the details, but it is IEC that has literally set the working conditions, working standards, and in those days used to give guidance on rates. No longer, that's no longer allowed. It's no longer
Okay.
legal. But on everything else, yes, manning or people strength. I don't want to say manning strength anymore. How many people should be in the booth, and for
Mm-hmm.
how long we should work, and all of that sort of thing. The other thing, as I said, I wanted to work with the United Nations. So when this setback happened in Jamaica, I said, okay, I was broke. I really had no money. But so I set about looking for a scholarship, and it took me a little while. But again, a door opened in early 1983, and here I'm dating myself. Early 1983, an advertisement came out in the Gleaner, that the French government was offering two scholarships to France to study interpreting or translating. And
Wow.
yeah, yes. And I said, right, here's my
That's for
opportunity.
you.
Yeah,
Yep.
I said, I'm going to get one of these scholarships. I applied, I went through the whole process, the interview, and I was granted a scholarship. Oh,
Wow.
that wasn't, yeah, that wasn't my plan. By the way, omitted to say that originally, way back when I was doing my A levels in school, I had wanted to become an archaeologist.
Oh,
Uh, yes,
hold on.
totally unrelated. but
Okay.
but I didn't get my history and geography at school. I couldn't believe
Okay.
it. I failed
It
history and
wasn't to
geography.
be. It wasn't to
It
be, Kate.
wasn't to be.
It
It
wasn't
wasn't
to
to
be.
be.
They needed you at the UN.
Yes, yeah. So I always say, well, I'll tell you this in a moment because I'm a trainer as well. I teach a lot, and I always encourage my students by saying that if you fail at one, there's a stumbling block. If you fail, pick yourselves up, brush yourselves off, and keep at
And then,
it. If it's supposed to be for you, you'll get there. If not, take the time to reflect and see what else you would like to do using your languages. Anyway, to come back to my story, I hope I'm not boring you.
No, not at all. Very interesting.
um,
If people
I,
are bored, they just need to switch off. That's all. But me, I'm still staying. So you don't have to worry about that.
thank you. So yes, so off I went to France with two suitcases, 1983, without the certainty that I was going to be admitted to the school that I wanted to attend, because I
So, excuse
decided,
me. So you had a scholarship for what
yes,
exactly?
to study interpreting or translating in
In
France, but
any
without
school?
specifying, yes, any
Ah, okay.
university, any school that I wanted to apply to. Okay.
Okay.
And I decided in those days, the ESIT, the École supérieure d'interprètes et de traducteurs at the University of Sorbonne, Paris 3,
Paris, yeah.
was reputed, along with the school at the University of Geneva, to be the best school for conference interpreting in the world. Those were the two best schools, the ESIT
Okay.
and the ETI in those days. There are now many other
Yeah,
excellent
yeah.
schools and
By the
universities,
83, that
obviously,
was,
but
yeah, yeah.
in that year, so I said, I want to go to the ESIT. I want to go to the best school. Now, my French was rusty, I have to confess, because even though I'd used it in, after coming back from France, as I think it was Jezeel was saying, if you don't practice, you will lose it. Even
True.
your even your native
It's true.
language.
Of
That year,
course.
that year I spent in France
True.
learning French, I got back to Jamaica, I couldn't spell. And people looked at me and said, "Why are you speaking so funny? Why are you talking so funny?" It was really so, I hadn't been practicing my French very much and it was rusty. But I was determined and okay, landed in Paris. I didn't have anywhere to stay because unfortunately I had not been given all the information that I should have received about the procedures to prepare. And I landed in Paris with nowhere to stay, two suitcases, and a bit of
So
money,
where
but
did
not
you
a lot.
go? Where did
Well,
you go?
I went and I reported to the there's a central what is it called, like an association that welcomes students, foreign students and others, and I was told that
Wow.
I had to go there to report to them, and they knew I was coming, they knew that
Okay.
I had this scholarship, but the first question they asked me was, what is your address? And I said, excuse me, I thought you were supposed to give me my address. And so
Oh gosh.
for the first month in Paris, I couch surfed literally, and I did my entrance exams for the ESIT from somebody's sofa. I mean, I was, literally a very kind couple let me sleep on their sofa for a week. And from there, I went and I did the entrance exams and I was accepted at the ESIT with French. So English, Spanish, French in that order. But the French was essential. If I didn't have the French, I would not have
You
been
wouldn't
able
have.
to go
Okay.
and I wouldn't have been accepted. That's why I said French has been pivotal throughout my life. It
Mhm.
really has been an asset. Um, so I got into Azit and I studied there for 3 years. I did an extra year because my French was rusty, but I graduated. Out of 300 applicants, I think there were 14 of us who graduated in the end. Yeah.
Wow.
hmm That's how competitive and demanding
Competitive.
it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Wow.
must say, interpreting is not easy. So it's a matter of knowing your languages thoroughly, but not just your languages, of having the aptitude. It does require
Mhm.
aptitude. Some people are better suited to become translators, others are better suited to be
Mhm.
interpreters, or better suited to do something else
Can
with
you
their
tell?
languages.
Can you? Can you please tell our audience the difference between interpreting and translating,
Yes.
please?
Very, very simple difference. Interpreting, it's oral, you speak. Translating, it's written, you write. Now you can see, I think, obviously why
Different
I chose
scales.
interpreting. Yeah, I love to speak. Yeah, so it's
Different scale.
basically, yeah, different skills. You're still conveying, obviously, the message from one language, from the source language, and you're analyzing it, and you are trying. finding the most appropriate way of conveying it in the target language. But the thing is, with interpreting, it's in the moment as well. It's spoken and it's in the moment. With translating, it is written and you have a bit more time, depending of course on what the circumstances are. Sometimes you are under pressure as a translator if you're working at a conference, or
Can
working with
imagine.
deadlines, of course. But generally speaking, you have a little bit more time to consult your dictionaries, your glossaries, and to
Mhm,
reflect and to put
mhm,
it down and go away, come back and see if you're happy with what you've done. So
mhm.
that essentially is the difference. With interpreting, it's in the moment, you say it, you try to convey it in the most appropriate way, the message in the most appropriate way, the most accurate message. You have to be accurate. But once you've said it, it's gone, unless it's being recorded, which is happening more
Yeah,
and more these
yeah,
days. But it's gone.
yeah,
And, you
yeah.
can't dwell on anything. Anyway, just to tie up more a little bit my career story.
Mhm.
After graduating from the Azit, I remained in Paris as a freelancer because my trainers were very happy to introduce me to the private market and to institutions like UNESCO. I worked at the UNESCO General Conference for a few years, and other meetings at UNESCO. Um, I worked for meetings with various French ministries, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of not Defense, Interior, a Ministry of Trade, various ministries, um, a, a, a whole array of fascinating meetings. And then I also worked with private companies on the private market. I'll tell you about you. Was it Yoplait or Danone? But the yogurt company. I used to
Danon.
love that. Well, yeah, there are two of them, Yoplait and Danone. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to remember, I don't remember which one, but I can tell you I used to enjoy working for them
Why?
because,
Because they give you yogurt?
yes, we got samples. They used to give us samples of the new products that they were bringing out for the different markets. It was that, one of the perks. um, but yes, so I did a lot of interesting work, traveled quite a lot as a freelancer. And while I was living in Paris, so I lived in France for a total of 12 years, 11 years in Paris. But while I was living in Paris, I also, for a few months, 6 months, lived in Portugal when I was working on my Portuguese
Mm.
and worked there as well as an interpreter. And then for personal reasons, I ended up living part time also in Egypt, in Cairo, and worked there
Wow.
also. But I don't have Arabic. لا. For those of you out there who speak Arabic, no, أنا ما أعرفش عربي. but but I was able to work there using my French and my Spanish and my English, even in Egypt. They sent me from Egypt to work on non-aligned ministerial conferences in Bali, for instance, in Indonesia. That was fabulous because of my languages. And then, but after a while, I had a daughter who was then a toddler, and I decided that I wanted to move countries. I wanted a more stable life because I had been traveling so much, and she needed to start school. So,
Poor girl.
yes, no, but oh, she loves traveling, by the way. So I
Like
decided to.
mother,
Yes,
like
I
daughter.
decided to move to Brussels and I continued freelancing in Brussels. And after a couple of years, I became a temporary agent at the European Commission. And
Okay.
then, yes, and then after 3 years as a temporary agent at the European Commission, I did what is called the open competition to become staff. I passed that, but I had also a couple of years
So what
before
is
or a
it?
year
Excuse me.
before.
What is it? Is it like an exam you pass,
Yes,
you take,
yes.
and
It's a competitive
okay,
exam that you
like
you have.
concours?
Yes, a competitive exam. They
Okay,
call it the open competition there, but it's like a
okay.
concours,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to you have to go through all the paces, not just an interpretation exam. You have to do all the segments of the exam to become an official. So that meant writing. In those days, it's changed since. I had to write an essay, I had to do an analysis of an article, I had to pick a topic out of a hat and deliver a 5-minute speech based on that topic. I had to do consecutive and simultaneous exams, of course. I had to
Lot of
answer,
pressure.
yes, general knowledge questions and questions about the EU. It was a lot of pressure. I passed, and but I
Wow.
had also previously passed the exam for the United Nations, and so that year it was the 2000, the year 2000, the millennium, and they were having the Millennium Summit, etc. And they needed interpreters in New York at the UN, and so I was invited to come and join them in New York, and I did. I put my offer at the European Commission on hold, and I went off to New York and I joined the UN, where I worked as a staff member for over 2 years. And
Okay. Well
yes, it
done.
was it was amazing, amazing. Um,
What
it
did
would
you
take a
like
whole.
about it?
I loved the international character of the place, the fact that all the countries of the world were represented there,
Presented, yeah.
and yes, and in all the meetings you could hear the opinions of all the countries of the world. um, I love the array of topics, a vast array of topics. As an interpreter, you have to be interested in just about everything under the sun, and anything can come up in meetings, anything.
Mm,
I liked the challenge of doing the general assemblies, interpreting people, presidents and prime ministers from around the world. Um, I interpreted Hugo Chavez and Lula from Brazil, and I know that I interpreted into the ears of certain, American presidents and so on. So it
wow.
gives you a
You
buzz.
have to
It gives
write
you
a
a buzz.
book, you know.
So I've
You
been
have to
told that
write a
many
book,
times,
Kate.
many times. Uh, one of the things that shocked me while I was there, though, was that I was doing one of these high level meetings and I didn't know that my interpretation was being broadcast live on CNN. And it was my sister
Okay.
who said to me afterwards, "Oh, I heard you on CNN." And I
Oh
was,
gosh, you didn't
"Oh
know.
no, no." At that stage, I didn't know. Anyway, long story short, though, I left. Unfortunately, I was there for 9/11 as well, which was
Oh,
quite an
wow. Okay.
experience. And that, along with a number of other issues, personal issues,
Mm,
I decided to leave and to take up the post in Brussels, because that was still just in the nick of time, still open for me.
open.
And
Okay.
so that's where I went and remained for 17 years, working at the European Commission as a staff interpreter in the English booth. And then I decided to become qualified as an interpreter trainer. So in 2010, I obtained my advanced master's in interpreter training from the other school, the one in Geneva. So I always like to say that I'm a
Okay.
graduate of both the ESIT and the ETI. It has now changed its name from ETI, which is École, to Faculty, FTI, University of
Okay.
Geneva. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I
Wow.
did that master's, advanced master's in interpreter training, and became a trainer in the commission. And that was going out on pedagogical assistance missions to universities all over Europe and further afield. And even after I retired in a couple of years ago, 2019, but still I am super
You still
active.
working or
I
doing some
Yes,
freelance work?
absolutely. I'm one of those
Okay.
people who I believe
Oh, I
in.
can see you, Kate. You will not stop. You will not retire.
No, no, I may slow down a bit, but I don't see why.
True, true.
I enjoy living, giving, sharing, and learning, and using my languages, including my French, really and truly. So to tell you, um, I have. uh, Okay, I was training. I've been to to train after retirement. I've been to train in China, I've taught in China, I've taught in Russia, but above all, for a period of 10 years, while still at the commission and even after retirement, I have been teaching in a program called PAMSIT in Africa, which is a Pan African consortium. Yeah, it's a master's in interpreting and translating that was developed among five African universities and the UN and the EU, and I still give them a hand. So it's great fun. So for 10 years, I was traveling frequently to Africa, to Ghana, Senegal,
Wow.
Mozambique, Kenya, Cameroon, even yeah, to Buea, and yeah, and that's what I've been doing. And everywhere,
Wow.
every step of the way, I just want to say, because this program is focusing on French, the French has been essential. The French has been a major asset. Now, what I do want to mention is not everybody is going to be an interpreter or translator.
No.
Hmm?
No.
No. I've also used my French, as I said, in tourism. I've used my French in foreign affairs, in a manner of speaking. I was involved in a foreign affairs, international relations committee for several years in Jamaica before leaving, and the French there was essential. I've been to I've done a number of outreach programs, um, again related mainly to interpreting, though, encouraging youngsters and students to think of studying modern languages, to use them in their careers. So French, again, I have actually given held workshops in French using my French. So it's been wonderful, um, all along. J'adore. My
Très bien.
when you said my romance, my love story with French, ben oui.
And it's not finished. It's
No,
not over.
no, 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 not over.
Now,
Ah,
Kate,
yes.
no joke. I think you need to write a book. And I'm sure that the audience will agree with me that you have so much to say in that book that will be the first one to purchase your book.
Oh, thank
Because
you so much.
yes, there's so much, and you've traveled so much. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I've never been to Africa, for example, so
Really?
yes,
Oh,
yes. I
oh
mean,
no, you
more
have to
Europe
go.
and that
Yes,
side, but
yes,
I didn't go further than that. So it's very, very interesting, you
yes.
know,
I
and
must tell
and
you,
yeah, go, go.
I was just going to say that, of course, COVID put paid to all the traveling,
Yes, I know,
but
I
I've
know.
been traveling digitally with my fingers, and
That's true.
linking up with all the countries, and in fact traveling even further afield. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I see Chrisanne Blake. Bonjour, Chrisanne. She said, write that book. You heard?
Yes, ma'am. I hear. Yes, Chrisanne. I will
And
start.
Grace Dillon say,
Mhm.
we, she says, we agree. I'm assuming that they're talking about the book. Okay. And
Yeah.
RBPJB said, agreed. Okay. So write that book.
Okay.
Okay. I
I
think
will
you have
have to
so
start.
much to really share that. Yes, Grace Dillon says we agree. So you have to write that book. I mean, there's no way. You have to write the book. And if you feel that it's because you want to talk, then do an audio
That's what
as
my
opposed to
daughter told
writing.
me. Actually, for
Yes.
Christmas
So
last year, my daughter got me a good old fashioned dictaphone. She says, "Mommy, you need to start writing. But since you won't
yes,
write, I want you to start
definitely,
speaking."
definitely, definitely, definitely. I'm going to read the comments we've seen.
Yes.
Um, because while you're talking, people are writing, but of course you wouldn't see them.
No.
All right, so it started. I think Rain said, "I wish I was." Oh yes, it's referring to Jezeel. Uh, so Jezeel, a question for you. I wish I was more like him. I'm struggling with my French class. Could you give me some tips? So Jezeel can be thinking about that. And then Shelly Wang said, wow, talking about you, so many languages, inspiring. Okay. Chris and
Thank you.
Blake said, this is an amazing story. Okay. Karen Henry said immersion is indeed the best way to master language, because you were talking about immersion at some
Mm-hmm.
point,
Yes.
how lucky you were, but it's not
Yes.
everybody who's fortunate to be in that immersion.
True.
Ishmael Samuel,
Yes.
he says, so I say it in French, je suis maintenant à l'université. Wow, très bien.
Yay.
Et ma spécialité est l'ingénierie électronique, les télécommunications et les énergies renouvelables. That is very good. Ishmael is one of my subscribers to the channel. And
Fantastic.
yes, he
Could I
was, sorry?
sorry, no, continue telling me
Yes,
about
he
Ishmael.
was in my lives,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yes. He was doing CSEC. I think it was CSEC.
Okay.
And I'm not sure where, which universities didn't say it, but you can see it's good French, right?
But could I make a comment though? That's something I've been wanting to say and I forgot to say too,
Mhm.
is that I just wanted to point out that everybody learning French or any other language here, um, no matter what you're doing in life, whatever, you don't have to study modern languages or languages and literature to become an interpreter or translator alone. What I mean is, in fact, for to become an interpreter, students are encouraged to study other disciplines. To have the
Oh, I see
languages,
what you mean.
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes. Sorry,
yes.
let me rephrase
Okay,
that.
yes, I
You
understand.
have to have
Mhm.
the languages, and they have to be solid,
Yeah,
excellent
because
level.
you need to have
Right.
a wide range of
Yes.
knowledge. Yes.
But yes, but actually, um, graduates who come with other degrees in other areas, engineering, medicine, law, anything else, economics, politics, of course, are encouraged also if they are
Ah,
drawn. Yes.
okay.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So
Yes.
Ishmael, if you hear that, if you're still with us, that's very muito obrigada.
De nada.
Okay, so Shelley said, "This is amazing. I love your positive." Okay, let me put all this. I forgot to put them there. This is amazing. I love your positive go-getter approach. Yes, you don't back down from challenges. Love it.
No.
Yes, it is true. I mean, you know, you have to be a fighter. That
Hmm.
is definitely the case. Another comment here: three amazing trajectories. Wow, really inspiring. I totally agree with that.
Absolutely.
Karen Henry saying, yes,
Hmm.
Kate, Language Training Center trained many of our interpreters and translators in the early years.
Hmm.
Yes. And
Hmm.
we call them LTC to
Yes, the
be
language training center.
yes,
Yes.
Language Training Center, and they also teach French.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Then Shele, bravo, Tia,
Yeah.
wash hands. Okay. All right. Okay. And then she continued by saying they underestimated the determination of a Jamaican woman. Yeah, that is true.
That is true because, to be honest, I was, before leaving Jamaica, when I got that scholarship, I was told by an official, I don't wish to say exactly whom, but I was told by someone who was French that I would never make it. That they said, "Oh, what? You want
Oh,
to go to the ISIT? You won't get
yes.
in." And I said that was like showing a red flag to a bull, telling me that I would never make it.
And maybe that
Mhm,
actually give you that
mhm.
boost to do
It
it,
gave,
right?
yes, yes. I wanted to prove this person wrong as well. Yes.
Were you able to see that person again? And after,
No,
no, of course.
no.
I mean,
Unfortunately, not. No.
all right.
Hmm.
Where there's a will, there's a
Hmm.
way.
There's
All
the
right.
way.
Okay, your story is wonderful and you are an engaging storyteller. So,
Thank you.
storyteller means you have to write a book. You know. And she said it before I told you about the book. So, okay, Chris Ann Blake said your story is very entertaining, and she wasn't bored at all because at some point you said oh, I'm bored. You may be boring people. And I told you, well, if they are bored, they can leave, but I'm still here. You remember I said
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I remember
And,
that. Thank you, Chrisanne.
and she said, she did the exam, but failed. Very
Oh,
competitive, I tell you. I think Kate
oh,
is extraordinary. Okay, I didn't know that, Chrisanne. But you can
oh.
still try again. We never know. We
Exactly.
never
That's what I
know.
was going to say, Chrisanne. You could try again. You just need to prepare
Yes,
for
you
it.
never know. And it
Yeah,
all
you never.
depends on who is taking the exam at the time because it's a competitive exam, right?
Mm,
It's like a concours,
well,
right?
yeah, in a manner of speaking, there is a limit on the
Okay,
number of people they take in. Yes,
exactly.
yes,
So it has to
yeah.
be the best. So
Mhm.
the best at the time. And then I have an amazing career trajectory, and I totally agree with that. Okay,
Thank you, Jean.
Marvin saying, I'm indeed inspired. This session will be played in all my classes. Oh, that's very good. Merci.
Ah.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm sure many people have heard Milen. Milen, yes, I'm Milen, but also Jenny. Okay. So for YouTube, I'm Jenny, but for those who know me, I'm Milen, right? Okay, beautiful. Okay. What an amazing life. Yes.
Thank you, Chrisanne.
Wonderful story.
Yeah, I will write the
Write a
book.
book. You remember what I said to you?
Yeah,
And everybody
sure.
agreed with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Kate definitely broke the mold into which many of our generations were poured. Wow. You hear
Oh,
that?
thank you, Jean. Thank you,
That
Jean, for
is
saying that.
very nice.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Do you know that person?
Yes, I
Ah,
know some of these people, a number of these
okay.
people who are putting comments are colleagues
All
and,
right. Okay. Very good.
yes, people I know.
Elle est tellement jolie, cette madame. Mm. Well.
I don't know this person, but thank you. Merci.
Okay, so you have an admirer, all right?
Merci, merci.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for your comments. It's very good to have comments like that. It's very encouraging. And, and it's encouraging for me as well to continue with those lives because I would like to really inspire people. That's the whole reason why I'm trying to find the right people to inspire you. Okay. Anything related to French, though. Um, so now I'm going to ask Angela. Angela, are you still here? Angela?
Here.
Yes, she's
Yes,
here.
I'm
And
here.
Jezeel? Yes. Okay. All right. So I have to say thank you very much to the three of you. You've done really well. Whichever interview it was, I was really into it. Very interesting. Yes. Okay. And you all managed to really make us go into your world, and your love affair with French. So that was very, very good. I'm now going into one particular comment, uh, not a comment, a question actually by Rain. Rain, this is, I don't know if it's a male or a female, but I wish I was more like him. So it has to be you, Jezeel, only one man here. I'm struggling with my French class. Could you give me some tips?
Wow. Okay. Can you hear me? You hear me, Charlie?
It's a little bit.
We can't hear you well.
Me now?
Yes,
Better,
that's
better,
better.
yes.
Okay, hi Rain. Thanks for that question. No, I think the first step is acknowledging that there is an issue, right? And you want to do better, which is absolutely amazing. So one of the things is practition is very important when learning French. And so when you learn a lesson in front, that when you go home, you practice, right? In order to assimilate assimilate
You're
and to
breaking up.
maintain the
You're
information
breaking up.
when the
I'm not sure if it's from my side, but you're breaking up, Jezeel. Can the others hear?
Mm.
No, not quite. Jezeel, you were breaking up. Can you repeat what you were saying? Because I don't know what you were saying. Are you still there, Jezeel? Oh, he's having some issues. Yes, yes. You're breaking up, Jezeel. Okay, whilst he's trying to get back to us, uh, I'm asking the question to Angela or Kate. What would be your tips for somebody who is struggling with their French classes? I
It's
don't know.
about,
Yes, Angela.
I assume she's in secondary school, and I would imagine that books are being used, but it's also not for me, it wasn't about looking at the words, knowing the words, pronouncing the words. It was about hearing the language more than anything. So I think that if she could maybe watch a French TV channel like TV5, which is on some of our cable stations, and also maybe the French radio station, RFE, that would help her to become attuned to the language. Even if she can't understand, at least she would, kind of get an idea of the sound of the language before even so much as looking at those words. To me, that was important. We use the écouter et répéter method. And
Yes.
so for a long time, we only écouter, listened. So that by the time we were to répéter and to speak, it's like we were speaking the language and speaking it properly. So I think sometimes when you're looking at the words too much, you can be confused because they really don't look the way they're pronounced. So the books could stay to the side for a moment until you kind of get your ears attuned to the language.
Yeah. Could I jump in and say I
Yes,
agree with
sure,
what
Kate.
What Angela has just said. In fact, I that is also linked to immersion in a manner of speaking. Something I realized when I moved to Europe was that in many countries in Europe, young people, children even, speak English or speak, well, mainly it's English, but speak another foreign language because they watch programs on TV in that language, right? Particularly the English ones. Now we're in a world where we have everything at our fingertips online. And there are so many programs, films, programs for children, for young people, for adults as well, that are available on the internet and for free, many of them. So the thing is to try to just, put, I'm not exactly sure what this person is struggling with in the French class, what precisely the problems are, but maybe just put that in the search box and see what comes up to see if there are programs or exercises that can help with those issues. And if not, quite simply watch films, documentaries, and listen, listen, listen. Yes, immersion is, and listening and capturing the sounds is so important. Yeah.
Well, for me, I would say to Rain, I don't know if it's a he or a she, that you can contact me by dropping a line to frenchaction1@gmail.com, because I would really need to have a bit more information. When you say your French class, what level are you? Are you preparing for CSEC? Are you pre-CSEC? And then I will be able to help. And French Action has a lot of videos. There's about 150 videos there. Not all of them would be suitable for you, but I'm sure you would find something. But it will be based on the problems you have, because you are struggling, but we don't know at what level, and it's a little bit difficult to help you without really knowing uh, the level. What I would say though to those who are preparing for exams in particular, like CSEC and CAPE, based on what happened before CSEC, I would say you have to work throughout the year, because what's happening is that the students work at the last minute. And I can tell you that because from my last live for CSEC to the exam, so the live was on a Sunday and the exam was Monday afternoon. YouTube recorded 991 hours. Guy, is too many hours at a last minute like that. And there was nothing before. So you have to work
That's right.
throughout the year, not
I would
just
agree.
before the exam. What happened is that during the lives, the students were coming, they were happy with the lives. And because I could see that they were benefiting from those lives, I continued. And for a whole month, there were lives every Sunday. And the lives were 4 hours. And I had to I had to stop after 4 hours because someone wanted to continue after 4 hours, you know. But the point I'm making is that it's not just 1 month before the exam you start working. You have to start working well before. For example, I think it's this week, I released a video on how to read, you know, for your paper 3, CSEC I'm talking about. Only 30 people, 30 views for this video. And I can tell you that this is something they have to do now, because some students at CSEC level don't know how to read. I am an examiner and I can tell you that. Some go to the exam and the reading is still not that good, and yet they have material to help them.
Could I add something to that,
Yes,
please?
true. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jenny. No, absolutely. Yes, I should have mentioned your videos and lives. But it is true that you cannot cram to learn a language. You can't do last minute cramming. That's
No.
impossible. Or to learn any skill or anything, you need to practice. You need to work a bit every single day, and that is the only way, by repetitive daily
Of course.
practice and work, that you will accumulate the knowledge that you need and reach the levels that are required.
Of course, of course. And that is my strong message to anyone preparing either CSEC or even DELF or, you know, CAPE or GCSE or any exam. Do not cram, because you think, oh, oh yes, the videos are there, I'm going to click next year in 2022. No, you have to click now. And then if there is a problem, then you will be able to address the issue. But when there's a problem and you do it at the last minute, you can't solve the problem at the last minute, you know.
Yes.
So it's very difficult.
Yes. For
So
me,
that's
I'd
what
say
I
that
would
you
say
need
to
to be
Rain. Yes.
building. I
Sorry,
say,
Angela, I didn't hear what you
oh,
said.
sorry. I say you need to be building.
Building, of
So
course.
building all the time. So everything you do is taking you one step or solidifying something that you learned already and adding to the knowledge that you have. So you know, with a language, it's almost like math. You can't just jump in and do everything
Yeah,
at the same time.
yeah.
You're building, learning more, developing all the time. So I would say to Rain, you know, don't give up, keep at it at whatever level. But it may be a case of having to go back to some of the basic things,
Basic.
because if you didn't get the basic things right, or if there are gaps in the knowledge, you have to fill those gaps. But it's not too late. I would still encourage Rain,
And
definitely.
it's good you're saying that, because I was saying to the students that the blue videos, because my channel is color coded. So blue is for absolute beginners, then gray is for CSEC, for example. And when they hear blue, they say, oh, it's blue, is absolute beginners. But let me tell you, what I put in absolute beginners is probably not beginners for them. And because they will see that there's so much that they learned and they forgot, you know. So you have to go back to that and ensure that you have that foundation. And I believe that that's probably the reason why some students are struggling, because they did French in grade 11, grade 7, 8, 9, probably were not sure whether or not they were going to continue to CSEC. And then when they decided, then if they hadn't paid much attention in those previous years, then you have gap in knowledge.
That's
And
right.
then you have to go back to the basic.
That's
And
it.
all the basic is there. It's in blue,
Yes.
but trust me, I'm sure that you will find something there.
Hmm. And you know if there's a gap in your knowledge according to the marks that you're getting. Because
Mhm.
if you're getting 50%, 60%, 70%, that's really not good enough if you want to be perfect. You
Yeah.
really have to be getting 95, 100, 99%. Yes, that's how it is with the
Yes.
language. That's
Mhm.
how it is with the language. Hmm.
Okay, I have a question. I have a question for Kate.
Mhm.
That was a question I had a bit earlier. Have you been in a situation where you were in the booth
Mhm.
and you were not too sure how to go about the translation, or there was a word which you didn't know, or how would you manage something like that? That
When
would
you
terrify me. I'm there and, oh gosh, I don't know that word. What happened?
oh, it happens almost every day,
Ooh.
actually.
Oh gosh.
We're not walking encyclopedias or anything. So yes, and in any case, you know that interpreting is dynamic. You rely on the speaker and the speaker's thoughts and what the speaker is. You're not the original speaker, so you don't know exactly what is going to be said unless you've received a copy of the speech beforehand, and even that is not a guarantee, because
Okay.
many speakers change their speeches or just
All
chuck
right.
them out.
Yes.
Chuck them out. So yes, this is part of training to do conference interpreting with confidence, and to be accurate, to be concise, to convey the message in a meaningful way, and to convey not just the content of the message but the tone. And you learn how to get around these little glitches or obstacles or gaps. um, I can't tell you exactly. Every situation is different. You're always, as I think, Angela, you mentioned at one point in our chat, that you have to think quickly. An interpreter, somebody who has the aptitude to become an interpreter, has to be able to really listen with a very high degree of
Mhm.
concentration. We call it listen actively, to be able to analyze what the speaker is saying. And in that process, if there is a word or an expression or a thought that you haven't quite understood, your brain is going into overdrive, trying to see if you can, in a manner of speaking, pick up the clues to stitch it together. That's one thing. And you also, in today's world interpreting, you have the advantage of having a tablet or a smartphone or something, a digital device, that while you're interpreting, listening, analyzing, retaining, finding the appropriate language to deliver in, and you're going on in an ongoing loop. You're also typing in quickly to see if you can come up with what that word means. but
Well,
also but also, here is where the importance of teamwork. We never work alone in the booth, and I want to make this crystal clear to the
Okay.
audience. A professional interpreter never works alone in the booth in simultaneous. You can work alone in consecutive for a while, for a short while. And in consecutive, you have more time, in a manner of speaking, as I explained, to think. If the speaker speaks and you're listening to the speaker, you're taking notes, you're not actually speaking. And so you hear the whole speech or the whole segment of the speech. You're able already to try to work out those, to overcome those little glitches or obstacles, or to find a way to express what the speaker is saying. And if you really are not, you really haven't a clue, and you're in a consecutive meeting, in many meetings, it is best to ask the speaker in the consecutive, you turn to the speaker and ask them if they could repeat that point or clarify just that one little point. You can't ask for a repeat of the speech. You
Mhm.
don't do that. So, yet there are many little tricks that you can use to try to find your way. But if you're doing simultaneous, you should not be alone in the booth. So, your booth partner will help you very often. If you are,
Okay.
sticking and you look in desperation at your booth partner, help!
Okay.
If they have picked up, you hope if they have the same language as well, because that's another thing. And if not, what they can do, it's a bit complicated. If they don't have the same language, but there is another booth that they can listen to working from that language that they know, for instance, let's say somebody's speaking Russian. I think, Angela, you mentioned you had Russian. Okay.
I see
I
so
don't have
much.
Russian. Okay. And let's say that somebody's speaking Russian in the room. And my booth mate is interpreting from Russian to English, and there's something said that my booth mate doesn't understand and looks at me in a panic, I may listen to the French booth who are also working from Russian to French. I understand French, so I might be able to pick up what it was that my booth mate was having difficulty with.
But
And sometimes you just have to let it go, unless it is absolutely essential.
wow.
Wow.
But Kate, all this has
Yes,
to be done with such speed
yes,
and as
Yes.
much
Yes.
accuracy as possible. It takes
yes.
me back to the point that I hope that I drove home to everyone, that if it's for your personality, then you will be proficient in the language, and you'll also have the speed that it takes, and you'll have the confidence it takes to be comfortable in what you're doing. Because
Mhm.
I think I wrote to you and I said, you had the career which I would have wanted.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't think I could have done it, because I think maybe through the training and
Yes.
education, you can develop some of what's required. But at this point, I think that I could be a translator
Hmm.
doing things
Mhm.
on paper
Paper.
with a
Yeah.
document. But I
Hmm.
don't think I'd have the nerves to do interpreting, because I'm sure that every time you leave that booth, you must be a bag of nerves, because to me that would bring on so much anxiety to have to do it so well and do it so quickly. I don't know if I could do the interpreting, but I love it.
Yes, no, I understand that. And as I said at one point, it's a matter of personality and aptitude. And that
Yes.
is one of the things that
Mhm.
is tested normally in
Mhm.
the good interpreting schools and
Mm.
universities. The entrance exam
Yes.
is
Mhm.
not just a matter of knowledge,
It's
but
the aptitude
aptitude.
also.
Yes,
Aptitude. Yeah.
aptitude.
You did
And
mention that.
yes, and
Yeah.
also, may I say that you're quite right. I know after I can't tell you how many years now I've been interpreting. Okay, years, decades. I no longer come out of the booth bag of nerves, not usually. However,
Okay.
I will share with you that on my first contract after graduating from EZIT in Paris, this was 1986. It wasn't simultaneous either. It was a consecutive meeting, but it was a very technical consecutive meeting. I had to prepare thoroughly for
Wow.
it. It had to do with safety, security, and structural engineering. And I'm not an expert, obviously. Interpreters are not experts usually in any of the fields unless they've studied this, as well as the languages. Anyway, just to cut this short, I did one day in consecutive. I lost 3 kilos, seven
Oh,
pounds that day.
Oh my God.
But
oh boy.
I
Kate,
didn't
I
mind that.
really admire you. I really, really admire you. I say this to everyone here because, as I said, you've had the
Thank you.
career that I would have wanted. But now I know, I definitely know that I would prefer to be on the sideline and admire the people who are in it rather than to do it.
No, but we all have our particular areas of expertise
And
and
it does
talent,
take a
and
particular
yes,
personality to be able to do it. Because it
yeah,
said to me also that if you can't maintain a um, calm demeanor, you're going to lose it at the point when you don't have time to lose it. You just have to
yeah,
stay focused and do
yes,
what needs to be done as efficiently as possible. I kind of equated it with someone who is, for example, a an air traffic controller. You
Yes.
know what you have to do practically, and you know that it's very important. And it's not every day you're going to have that emergency situation. But when you have that emergency, you have to be able to deal with it in a split second and know how to get around it.
You're
Mhm.
absolutely right. And could I just say, it's not the first time that comparison has been drawn.
Yes.
When at the beginning, when I mentioned AIC, the International Conference Interpreters Association, at the beginning of their planned negotiations with the United Nations on working conditions, there was a study that was carried out to assess the stress levels of interpreters doing
Mm,
simultaneous in the booth. And our stress levels were equated to those of air traffic controllers,
Traffic
yeah,
controllers.
and
Mhm.
commercial pilots, yes.
and I've
Yes.
noticed they smoke a lot.
No, not anymore. Not anymore.
Now,
In
when
the old days,
I
yes.
see interpreters and they always smoking, smoking.
Mm,
So I said, "Oh my God, they're stressed."
that was in the no, in the 80s still yes, but in the 90s a lot. In fact,
No,
smoking was
I'm talking about more recently. I'm talking
y-
about
y-
6 years now. Yeah,
yes.
I
What I
they
was going to
were
say is, well, I
smoking.
don't.
Yes.
It depends on where. In
Yeah.
Europe, smoking is banned in all the booths. People do not smoke in the booths at
No, no,
work.
no. They don't.
So,
They don't. No, no, no. They don't smoke in the booth. But when
mhm.
they finish, the first thing they do is either smoke or have a coffee or something like
Well,
that.
it is true that, yeah, no,
No, they
generally
wouldn't smoke
speaking,
in the booth.
no,
But
no, but also smoking outside the booth has declined over here in Europe anyway,
okay,
among
all right.
interpreters.
I'm talking
But
about
it is
So,
Jamaica.
true,
I'm talking
uh-huh,
about
but
Jamaica. Okay.
it is true that, there are, I think, thankfully, a lot of interpreters are finding healthier ways to deal with the stress. It is
Okay.
true that a lot were,
actually,
yeah,
I was
uh, uh,
going to ask you, Kate, what
eh,
do you do to de stress? I mean, do you go for the coffee or do you have a wine or what? If
no.
it's not smoking.
Um, no, no smoking. And I don't necessarily go for the wine. I mean, I don't mind a glass of wine from time to time after work, but it's not because of the stress. I no exercise. I've started meditating.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Mm.
I used to do a lot of swimming. I love dancing. I listen to music. Cooking, or and a nice
Yes.
TV program.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Different.
so it is considered a high stress career.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
No doubt
Yeah. Oh,
about that.
yes. Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah, it
people
is.
would look at it from the outside and just think, oh, that's so nice, But
Mm.
it's high stress,
It
and you
is
have
high
to be
stress.
prepared for that, and you have
Yeah.
to have the personality for that.
But could
Hmm.
I just say once again, with the proper training, together with everything you've just mentioned, with the training and with experience, you learn to control that stress. We have lots of classes on stress management for interpreters as well. Breathing, I forgot to mention breathing. Breathing exercises are very, very important. And you learn to monitor and manage your stress. And over time, it no longer is a major issue. Unless you're in a particularly stressful meeting, like a top summit or something, really stressful. But generally, we no longer think about it after a few years, but it's true. Yeah.
And I have another question, which I'm sure that the audience want to know, but then don't dare asking. Um, is it or how can I put it? I'm sure it is a well-paid profession,
I
right?
knew you were coming with that question. Okay,
So
let's
just
put it.
to give us an idea of after all
Yes.
this stress, I mean, how much could an interpreter get in his
Well,
or her hand?
yes. No, there are different
I'm sure.
realities, okay, in
I'm
relation
sure.
to in how interpreters are paid. If you are a conference interpreter with an established international organization, whether on staff or working with that organization as a freelancer, you are handsomely paid. I mean, it's quite substantial. Um,
Okay.
but it depends. If you're staff, you get a monthly amount. If you're freelancer, you get paid per day. And this is true also of the private market. You get paid per day, normally, of contract. Now, in today's world, with online interpreting, remote simultaneous interpreting, and other forms of interpreting, you may get paid for half a day. And there are even some people paying for per hour. And something which is absolutely ridiculous, which we professional interpreters reject completely out of hand, is that there's some agencies trying to pay per minute. That's ridiculous.
What?
Yes, yes. Forget
Yeah,
it. Anybody comes to me with per minute or even per hour, I tell them,
you don't
it's okay,
bother with
thanks.
that.
No, don't go there. Um, but the thing to remember is, if you're staff, fine, you will get paid not more than the other. For instance, if you work at the UN, you don't get paid more than the other UN officials of your grade. You're paid the same as everyone. And those, I think, are online. Those amounts may be indicated. The same in the EU. You're considered an
Okay.
official like any other official. On the private market, depending on your languages and depending on your clients, you can be paid. Um, well, let's say I don't want to give specific figures
No, no,
because
no. Okay, but
no,
just
but you can be paid quite well, for a day's work. I've heard of things ranging from 350, which I consider low US, up to 500, 600 per day. Okay. Now, there are some people I know who have been able to command up to $1,000 for a day, but they may have Russian or
yeah.
Japanese or
Okay,
Arabic.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, but a day is, you have to establish how many hours that is. It may be, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever. Certainly not more than I wouldn't do more than 6 to 7 hours maximum in a day normally.
but even
But
that is a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And
A lot
I
of
always,
concentration.
it is. And the other point is that as a freelancer, you do not work every day. And sometimes you can,
Yeah, yeah,
especially with COVID and everything, there have been a lot of freelance interpreters who, okay, work is picking up a bit now, but for almost 2 years had almost no work whatsoever. So, no matter how much you're paid in a day, if you don't have any work, you don't have any work.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
True,
a
true.
challenge.
Mhm.
Um, but I always said that even the amounts that I hear, three, four, five, 600 a day, I consider to be quite low, considering
Okay.
the amount of effort, time, and
Yeah, it's
training
a lot of, yeah,
and
yeah,
training. And as I said, nowadays the minimum requirements usually internationally are to have a master's in conference interpreting or translating, a proper master's plus, uh, you know, 2 to 5 years experience. And when you hear how much certain consultants and other professions make, I think it's still not paid enough, to be honest. But then, I mean, compared to some other professions, it's comfortable. So, if you want to be an interpreter or translator, you know that if you can get uh, the qualifications and the clients, or you join an organization, yes, you will be fairly comfortable. But if you can't, if you're a freelancer and you can't get the clients, you don't work often, you can't rely on that alone. And this is a thing, I think, in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, in many other parts of the world also. Freelance interpreters and translators cannot just rely on that. It's not an adequate source of income at all. And
okay,
so very many people have to do 2 or 3 different jobs. Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even here in Europe,
Okay.
actually, yeah. So I was
Mm,
just thinking with COVID, even here in Europe, I was thinking of several
yeah,
colleagues who have had to go back to teaching,
mm,
or set up online
yeah,
businesses or
yeah.
whatever.
I can
Yeah,
imagine. I can imagine.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that was very interesting. I'm sure that
Very. Yes.
my
Mhm.
audience will agree with me. Very interesting. Everybody had a lot to say. I'm sorry that Jezeel hasn't managed to get back.
Yes.
Obviously, he must be struggling because I don't see him. So that's such a pity.
Mm.
Uh, but what I wanted to say to everyone is that yes, we finish with interpreting, but as you know, there's many other professions.
Mhm.
Okay, the idea is to have a language. I mean, in this case, we were talking about French, but if you have another language, that other language can take you somewhere as well. It won't be France, or but somewhere. Okay, so I will definitely encourage you to learn a language, whether it's French, Spanish, or any other language. You have to learn something else. And I also say that it's good for the memory. I always say, because you have to learn a lot of words as well. So it's good for your memory. So even if it's just for the pleasure, that is something you can do. Okay. So I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. I don't see any questions, but it looks like uh, people are really interested. We're interested, and thank you a lot for your contribution. I'm going to mention again Greener Side Language Academy, which I mentioned before, and I mentioned 2 videos. So you can watch those 2 videos about careers in well, it's not in French, it's in foreign languages. I will put the links below. When the live is finished, I will look for those links and you can see them in the description box. Okay? So, Angela, Kate,
Thank you, Milan.
Jezeel, if you can hear me somewhere, thank you very much. I'm really, really pleased. I fully enjoyed that live. And boy, it was inspiration. I wish I were like 20 now to start all over again, you know. But it was really, really interesting, as I said. And Kate, I know it's getting late for you, so you have to go to bed because Kate is in London at the moment. She's not in
Yes,
Jamaica. So thank you very much.
it
And
it was a pleasure.
as I said to people, if you need any information, know where to contact me. And I say it again, French accent with number 1 at gmail.com. Okay. And if you think that you could be in that live for whatever reason, but it has to be related to French, of course, then write to me and we'll see. And we can organize another live. And as I said before, you need to subscribe because I never know when the next live is going to be because I have guests and I have to rely on their availability. So, next live, I don't know as yet, but I have quite a few lives coming. Some will not be in English, some will be in French, totally in French, because those guests can't speak English. So it will have to be in French, but I will have to find a way of translating those lives after when it's finished. But a lot is coming, so stay tuned. And Angela, Kate, merci beaucoup. Au
Merci,
revoir.
Milan. Au
Je vous en
revoir.
prie, merci beaucoup. Au revoir, c'était un
Au
plaisir.
revoir, tout le
Au
monde.
revoir.
Au revoir to everyone, and have a good evening. Au revoir.
Thank you.